The story is set in Japan during the Taisho era. This was a period where ancient legends intertwined with modern civilization. It was said that man-eating demons lurked in the shadows of the world, feeding on humans, and those who fought against them were swordsmen known as Demon Slayers, who stood up to slay demons and protect the peace. Our protagonist, Tanjiro Kamado, lived in such an era, in a normal and warm family. His father passed away early, and his mother worked hard to raise 6 children. As the eldest son, Tanjiro, only 13 years old, had already taken on the burden of the family, helping his mother take care of his younger siblings. Over the long years of mutual support, the bond between family members had become unbreakable. Tanjiro made a living by selling charcoal. Perhaps deeply influenced by his mother's gentle nature, he possessed a heart as clear and pure as water, but a strong sense of responsibility and the courage of a man were also deeply imprinted in his soul. One day, Tanjiro, as usual, carried charcoal down the mountain to sell in the town. The townspeople all had a good impression of this hard-working and kind-hearted young man. Tanjiro was born with an extraordinary sense of smell, and he often used this ability to help the townspeople solve various small problems. Because he enthusiastically helped an uncle, he returned home later than expected. Traveling the mountain road at night was dangerous, and a kind-hearted villager, worried that he would encounter a demon, insisted on letting him stay at his house. The night passed peacefully, and the next morning, as dawn broke, Tanjiro set out on his way home. However, on the mountain road not far from his home, an unprecedentedly strong and intense smell of blood suddenly pierced his nose. When he rushed home like a madman, what he saw was a hellish scene. His mother and siblings all lying in pools of blood. Among the cold corpses, only his sister, Nezuko, still had a faint trace of warmth and breath. Anxious, Tanjiro immediately carried his sister on his back and ran desperately towards the town at the foot of the mountain, hoping to find a glimmer of hope for treatment. However, on the way, the abnormality within Nezuko suddenly erupted. She revealed ferocious fangs, lost her mind, and instead attacked the only living being in front of her, her own brother. The siblings confronted each other fiercely in the snow. Tanjiro desperately called out his sister's name. Perhaps the kinship that was thicker than water awakened, the humanity that remained in her heart. Nezuko's movements hesitated for a moment. Just at this critical moment, a man wearing a 2-colored haori and with eyes as sharp as knives quietly appeared. He was none other than the Demon Slayer Gyu Tomioka. Bearing the duty to slay demons, he was about to strike a fatal blow against Nezuko, who had already turned into a demon. From Gyu, Tanjiro learned a desperate truth. Once a human's wound is contaminated with demon blood, they will transform into a demon, an irreversible process. Hearing this, Tanjiro recalled the tragic death of his family, and could no longer suppress the grief at his heart. He knelt on the ground and begged Gyu. He could not lose the only family member he had left in this world. However, Gyu interrupted his plea with a stern rebuke, telling him, "The weak have no rights, let alone the right to choose. Only by becoming strong enough can you protect everything you want to protect." In fact, Gyu's heart was also full of self-blame. If he had arrived earlier, perhaps this tragedy could have been avoided. He could deeply understand Tanjiro's pain, but his duty was to eliminate the demon in front of him. Seeing his sister in mortal danger, Tanjiro mustered his courage to fight back, but was easily knocked unconscious by the much stronger Gyu. At this moment, another change occurred. Nezuko unexpectedly burst out with amazing power and broke free from Gyu's control. Just as Gyu thought she was going to devour Tanjiro, she resolutely opened her arms and stood in front of her brother in a protective posture. This scene deeply shocked Gyu. He finally chose to believe in the extraordinary bond between the siblings, merely stunning Nezuko and pointing Tanjiro in the direction he should go. When Tanjiro woke up again, his mother's last words were still echoing in his ears: "Be sure to protect Nezuko." This sentence became the creed and mission he would strive for throughout his life. Gyu told him to find an old man named Sakonji Orokodaki. After solemnly burying his family, Tanjiro took the hand of his still unconscious sister and embarked on an unknown journey. Along the way, he carefully made a bamboo basket for Nezuko to hide in, as she feared the sunlight. Nezuko also miraculously displayed the ability to freely change the size of her body, obediently hiding inside. Soon the siblings encountered a ferocious man-eating demon. With just one glance, Tanjiro was completely overwhelmed by the opponent's strength. The ordinary weapon in his hand could not cause real damage to the demon. At a critical moment, Nezuko, although drawn by the smell of blood, regained her senses at the last moment and kicked the demon away, saving her brother. Tanjiro also managed to pin the demon to a tree with his headbutt and axe. At this time, an old man wearing a Tengu mask appeared silently behind him. This person was Sakonji Urokodaki. He pointed out to Tanjiro that only by completely destroying the demon's head could it be killed, but Tanjiro's compassion prevented him from doing so. In the end, the rising sun turned the demon into ashes. Afterwards, Sakonji sternly warned Tanjiro about his indecisiveness and set him a test to become a demon slayer, to complete a long-distance run within a specified time and traverse a forest full of deadly traps. With his extraordinary perseverance and keen sense of smell, Tanjiro jian nandi tong guo liao seishi, saying, "So Sakonji, at the request of Gim Tomioka's letter, officially accepted him as a disciple." Thus Tanjiro and Nezuko began a new life under Sakonji's protection. Sakonji first systematically introduced Tanjiro to the basic knowledge of the Demon Slayer Corps and demons. The Demon Slayer Corps was a long-standing unofficial organization with hundreds of members. They were dedicated to slaying demons and protecting humans, and all members were patriots with a sense of justice. Demons, on the other hand, had powerful self-healing abilities, and ordinary attacks were not fatal. Only by using a special weapon called the Nichiren blade to cut off their heads could they be completely eliminated. To join the Demon Slayer Corps, one had to pass the final selection, held on Mount Fujikasen. Becoming a member of the Demon Slayer Corps was undoubtedly the best way to find a way to turn Nezuko back into a human. From then on, Tanjiro devoted himself to extremely rigorous training, with the ultimate goal of becoming a demon slayer. The hardships and sweat of years of training went without saying. During this time, Sakonji imparted all 10 forms of his lifelong skill, the water-breathing technique. The so-called breathing technique was a special method that allowed the user to inhale large amounts of oxygen, activate all the cells in the body, and instantly unleash physical abilities and combat power beyond normal human limits. Finally, one day, Sakonji presented Tanjiro with the final test, to split a huge rock with his sword. However, the hardness of this giant rock was far beyond what human strength could shake. After half a year of failure and confusion, a young man wearing a fox mask named Sabato suddenly appeared in front of Tanjiro. He claimed to be Sakonji's disciple, and accompanying him was a girl named Makomo, who was also Tanjiro's senior sister. Both were skilled and began to rigorously instruct Tanjiro on his breathing rhythm and swordsmanship. After another half-year of training, after countless challenges and failures, Tanjiro once again challenged Subito. This time, Sabito drew his real sword for the first time. In the fierce battle, Tanjiro finally smelled the fleeting line of opening in his opponent's moves in a flash of lightning and successfully split the rock. However, when he came to his senses, Sabito and Makomo disappeared like phantoms. It turned out that they had already died in the final selection many years ago, and had been encouraging and guiding Tanjiro's training in the form of spirits. Despite his inner worries about his disciple, Sakonji finally agreed to let Tanjiro participate in the selection. On the night before his departure, the master and disciple enjoyed a long-awaited warm dinner, and Sakonji also gave him a Nichiren blade and a fox mask that could ward off misfortune. The next day at dawn, Tanjiro said goodbye to his master and embarked on his journey. After 2 years of training, he was finally about to face the ultimate test of life and death. The location of the final selection was on Mount Fujikasane, where many young swordsmen with the same goals gathered. At the announcement of 2 girls wearing kimonos, the trial officially began. Participants had to survive alone for 7 days in this mountain, which imprisoned countless demons. The demons in the mountains were firmly trapped by the wisteria flowers at the foot of the mountain, and years of hunger had made them extremely ferocious. Only those who survived would be qualified to become members of the Demon Slayer Corps. On the first night of the test, Tanjiro encountered 2 demons. Facing real life and death combat for the first time, he was once stiffened by tension, but quickly adjusted and calmly used the water-breathing 4th form, Striking Tide, the blade drawing a beautiful wave trajectory, killing the 2 demons in one fell swoop. After the battle, Tanjiro still clasped his hands together for the demons who had turned to dust, praying that they would be freed from endless resentment. Suddenly, a chilling aura swept over him. Not far away, A swordsman was being frantically chased by a hand demon that was deformed and huge, with arms all over its body. Seeing his companion about to die at the hands of the demon, Tanjiro suppressed the fear in his heart and decisively used second form, Water Wheel, rescuing his companion. However, when the hand demon saw the fox mask on Tanjiro's face, it instantly became extremely violent. It turned out that 47 years ago, it was Tsukonji Urokodaki who had captured and imprisoned it here. Over the long years, it had devoured 50 of Tsukonji's disciples, and its strength far exceeded that of ordinary demons. When he learned that Subito and Mikomo had also died at its hands, Tanjiro was furious and attacked with his sword, but was easily knocked away by the hand demon due to his disordered breathing. Seeing this, the rescued swordsman fled without regard for everything. The hand demon's fatal blow was already coming towards Tanjiro. At this critical moment of life and death, the voice of his sister calling out seemed to ring in his mind, instantly awakening Tanjiro. He recalled his master's teachings, stabilized his mind, and resolved to kill this fated enemy here. After a thrilling entanglement, Tanjiro finally captured the line of opening, and successfully cut off the hand demon's hard neck with water breathing, first form, water surface slash. In the last moments of its life, the hand demon's memories returned to when it was still human. It remembered that after becoming a demon, it had personally killed its beloved brother. Feeling the sadness in its soul, Tanjiro couldn't help but grasp its disintegrating hand. This gentle gesture was like a ray of light, illuminating the hand demon's 100 years of darkness. At the end of consciousness, it seemed to finally reunite with its brother. When the hand demon was completely reduced to ashes, the spirits of the disciples of Urokodaki who had been killed by it appeared one after another. They smiled and nodded to Tanjiro, and then peacefully ascended to the sky. 7 days later, the cruel selection ended, and out of dozens of participants, only 4 survived. Tanjiro Kamado, Zenitsu Agatsuma, Genyu Shinazugawa, and Kanawa Suri. These 4 newcomers officially became members of the Demon Slayer Corps. The ranks of the Demon Slayer Corps, from highest to lowest, were divided into 10 levels. Kino, Kanto, Kana, Tsuchite, Hitoti, Hino, Kono, Kano, Mizunoto, and Mizuno. They would begin their demon-slaying careers from the lowest Mizuno level. At the same time, they also received the Kasugai Crow, used to transmit missions, and a certificate that could be used to commission the creation of their own Nichiren blade. Tanjiro dragged his wounded body back to Urokodaki's residence, and Nezuko, who had been asleep for 2 whole years, miraculously woke up at this time. The siblings were reunited after a long separation, hugging each other tightly, a touching scene. That night, after learning that the hand demon had been killed, Tsukonji also told Tanjiro that there were some demons in the world who could use special abilities called blood demon arts, and they were far more difficult to deal with than ordinary demons. At the same time, he also speculated that the reason why Nezuko could not eat humans was because she used long periods of sleep to replace eating in order to restore her strength. This may be a manifestation of her special nature. 15 days later, Tanjiro's exclusive Nichiren blade was delivered. The sword deliverer was named Hotaro Haganazuka. He called Tanjiro the child of the blazing sun, because Tanjiro's fiery red hair and eye color were a symbol of good omen for the Kamado family, who were engaged in fire-related work. He thought that Tanjiro's sword would turn a bright red, but the blade turned out to be pure black. At this moment, the Kasugai Crow brought the first mission order. In a town to the northwest, young girls have been mysteriously disappearing one after another recently. Tanjiro immediately took Nezuko and the Nichiren blade and embarked on his first journey as a Demon Slayer swordsman. He quickly arrived at the mission location and found a man who was distraught because his fiancée had been kidnapped. With the help of this man, Tanjiro used his keen sense of smell to successfully track down the demon's residual scent. At night, the demon reappeared, using its blood demon art to create a black swamp that it could freely traverse, dragging an innocent girl into it. Tanjiro arrived in time and stabbed his sword into the swamp, rescuing the girl. The demon then revealed its true form. Not only could it turn any place into a swamp, but it could also split into 3 individuals to attack simultaneously. This made Tanjiro exhausted in dealing with it. What was even more troublesome was that he wanted to ask the demon for information about the progenitor of demons, Muzan Kibutsuji, the one who turned his sister into a demon, and who was also key to restoring her to her original state. Because he needed to protect the rescued girl, Tanjiro couldn't exert his full strength. At a critical moment, Nezuko broke out of her box and kicked a demon that was trying to attack from behind, sending it flying. It turned out that during Nezuko's slumber, Sakonji had already given her special psychological cues, making her regard all humans as family and demons as enemies. The siblings fought side by side for the first time, facing 3 swamp demons. Tanjiro entrusted the responsibility of protecting humans to his sister, while he decisively jumped into the depths of the swamp to face the demon's main body head-on. In the viscous swamp, facing the attack of 2 demons, Tanjiro remained calm and used water breathing, 6th form, twisting whirlpool, the strong swirling water, instantly tearing the bodies of the 2 demons apart. At the same time, Nezuko on the ground, although injured on her forehead in the fierce battle, ultimately perfectly coordinated with her brother's actions, helping Tanjiro successfully subdue the last demon. Tanjiro tried to force Muzan's whereabouts from the surviving demon, but this demon was so terrified of Muzan that it remained tight-lipped, even launching a suicide attack. Helpless, Tanjiro had to kill it. After the incident was resolved, Tanjiro returned the hairpin relic belonging to the man's fiancée that he had found, and encouraged him to live on strongly. Immediately afterwards, the Kasugai Crow brought a new mission, to go to Asakusa in Tokyo Prefecture, where there seemed to be traces of demons. Tanjiro set off immediately. The urban prosperity of Asakusa dazzled him, who had lived in the mountains since childhood. However, just as he was resting at a roadside stall, a scent that was both familiar and hated pierced his nose. It was the scent of Muzan Kibutsuji. Regardless of everything, Tanjiro followed the scent, and saw Muzan disguised as a human, even accompanied by a wife and daughter, in the crowded crowd. Just as Tanjiro was shocked and hesitant by this unimaginable scene, Muzan noticed his killing intent. He subtly turned a passerby into a demon to create chaos, and took the opportunity to escape. Tanjiro could only prioritize controlling the newborn demon, which caused him to be regarded as a troublemaker by the police who arrived after hearing the news. At a critical moment, a cloud of fragrant flower petal smoke enveloped the area, isolating him from the outside world. Appearing in the smoke was a female demon doctor named Tamayo, and her human companion Yushiro. Tamayo stated her position that she also regarded the elimination of Muzan as her responsibility, and helped Tanjiro quell the riot. Tanjiro followed the two to Tamayo's hidden residence. Tamayo explained to him that she and Yushiro had long since broken free from Muzan's control through special means. They only needed to drink a small amount of blood, purchased from volunteers to survive, without harming humans. Her ultimate goal was to develop a drug that could turn demons back into humans. To this end, she pleaded with Tanjiro to assist her in collecting blood samples from different demons, especially those with powerful abilities. This was the first time Tanjiro saw a clear hope of restoring Nezuko, and he agreed without hesitation. However, Muzan had also noticed the activity here, and sent 2 powerful subordinates, Yahaba, who had the ability to manipulate arrows, and Susumaru, who threw deadly Tamari balls, to hunt down Tanjiro and Tamayo. A fierce battle has begun. Can Tanjiro and Nezuko survive surrounded by powerful enemies? Where will the fate of this sibling pair lead? The suspense of the story has only just begun.